Hey guys, here's vlog number 2. Um, you're gonna have to excuse me if I don't look straight at the camera because I am looking at myself on the phone. So um, today um, I'm going to tell you a story about how I and my family moved to the United States from the Soviet Union back in 1990. Well, 89 is when we started our trip, and we arrived in the United States in 1990. So I got me a list here of things to remind me to talk about. It was a long trip. I do not remember a lot of details, and I might be wrong on a few of them, but overall, it gives you a gist of the trip, the whole process of being a Soviet Union refugee back in the 1990. I think the program that we were on started sometime in 1988, maybe. I don't. I That's not a fact. I'm just assuming because I know we were on the very end of it. In fact, the cutoff um, the cutoff was September 9th, I believe, and we were literally on that same day or the day before or somewhere in there. So we were literally the last batch of people going on this program, going through an Israeli visa, um, because basically the government in Russia, I think it was Gorbachev, that allowed this or whatever. Um, they were letting all the Jews and Christians go to Israel. That was basically the idea. And so we left on the the Israeli visa, and headed to Israel. And the process of how people got to the United States is once you're outside the country, outside of Soviet Union, you can redo your papers and then end up going wherever you want to go. And by the way, yeah, I'm sitting on the inside of the house today and not on the porch by the same window. So yeah, we got our visa, and the reason that we were going is not specifically because we were being persecuted as Christians or Jews. We're not Jews, but we are Christians, and so the thought was that if you're getting prosecuted, you can leave the country. That's why America was allowing this program. Uh, Again, I don't know exactly the details of that. I know that there was, my parents had things that they could show that they were being persecuted that I don't know about. That's how we were able to get out. So like I said, I don't know all the details, but I'm just telling you what I remember. So we got our visa, we got our date on which we can go, and so this whole trip, this whole process was sponsored by the United States, and then it was paid for by the United States, and then once we got to America, then we were presented a bill and then we had to pay it off. So that's kind of how it worked. I lived in Estonia. That's where I was born. And so our family, on the day that we started our trip, we took a train from Estonia to Moscow. And I don't know if I've ever been to Moscow before this. Um, if I have, it was just one time before. I have some memories of being in Moscow, but I could be wrong. It could be St. Petersburg. I know I've been to St. Petersburg maybe once or twice. I had some cousins living there. Uh, anyway, so we took a train to Moscow, and then uh, without leaving the train station, we got on a train uh, to go west and cross the border into Czechoslovakia. And so the city that we ended up in is called Chob, Chob. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Uh, this city is still called that, so you can look it up on the Google Maps. That's where our train ended up, and we had to go through customs there. So we were traveling. It was my mom and dad, and me and my sister and my brother. So there was 5 of us, and we had 9 suitcases with us. I know that one of the suitcases was full of food, and it was like canned food, like sardines and candy bars. I don't even know if there was candy bars because I don't think we could buy candy bars back in Soviet Union. There wasn't even candy bars, I don't think. Anyway, it was just all canned food that we could eat on our trip. Anyway, so we had 9 suitcases. We got them all stacked on this trolley, and there was so many people in this train station. There was insane amount of people standing in line to go through customs, which were basically doing the same thing we were doing. And so my dad, we were traveling. It was our family, and I think it was 5 other families that were traveling together that we knew. And so the dads of the families would take turns standing in line for customs because we were in this train station standing in line for 5 days. So the dads would take turns standing in line, and the moms would take care of the kids, and we were all, so we moved downstairs into the basement of the train station, and we found a corner in the basement. The basement was like, it was a public place. There was lockers there that you pay for, and then there was this corner that we took, and we put all our luggage on the floor, all 5 families, and we spread out blankets, and we basically slept on our luggage. And the kids had a blast, obviously. I think I was maybe 11 or something like that. I think I was 11. And we would run around the train station. So these lockers that we were sleeping near, people would use them. They would put money in there, and they lock their stuff. And then when they come back, they take their stuff out, and then the money would fall back out. So you basically put the money in, so then you bring the key back. So they didn't keep any of the money. So the money would roll out, the little coins would roll out and just sit in the little collecting bucket down there, so for them to take it. And so because this train station was on a near a border, I looked at the map. I think this city's kind of far away from the border, but I'm not sure why it was like a point of the customs area. So people that were leaving Soviet Union, they don't need the Soviet money anymore, so they would just leave it and not take it after taking their luggage. So we would go and collect all this money every day, and we'd go upstairs, and there was a arcade games room that we would just spend that money on. And so we had a blast. It was really fun. I'm sure our parents did not have as fond of memories of that time. I remember we had a hot plate, and my mom would boil water in the tea kettle and make soup and tea and whatever. Anyway, so then after we went through the customs, we got on the train. Let me think. I'm trying to think if there was anything else memorable in Czechoslovakia. I know that we did leave the train station one point and went to a restaurant there. And we had pelmeni. And that was very memorable for me. They were really good pelmeni. Anyway, so, another side note is my wife was telling me how they were going to America, and they were going pretty much at the same time, but we never saw them, so they were going with their family, but they had 6 kids, or maybe 5 kids, and mom and dad, so like, I don't know, 7, 8 people, but they only had one suitcase. They only took one suitcase with them to go to America, and it only had diapers for their baby. And so when they got to this train station, to the customs, one of the customs people saw that they only had one suitcase, and they took them out of line, took them directly to the customs area, got them through, and they went on their way. They didn't have to stand in line as long as we did. Anyway, so we got on the train, and it headed to Vienna, Austria. So when we arrived, we got on a bus, and the bus took us into the mountains, into a city called Goblitz. I think that's what it was called. I also found it on Google Maps, and it's a tiny city in the mountains. Looking at Street View, actually I don't know if there's Street View in Germany, in Austria, but I couldn't find the place where we stayed. It was a ran down hotel. It was a 2-story hotel. The rooms were literally just a room. They didn't have bathrooms, sinks, or anything. There was a bathroom on the 2nd floor on one side of the building, and there might have been another one on the other side of the building, and same thing on the 1st floor. So everybody shared a bathroom. And they did not allow us to use the electricity other than the lights. There was a couple outlets in the room, but they didn't allow us to use them for anything serious. Actually, for anything, I think. We had a hot plate, like I told you, and anytime they found out that somebody was running a hot plate, they would yell. The hotel people would come up and bang on our door and yell at us. So we had to do it very quietly. But there was a public kitchen in the hotel, so everybody was encouraged to cook there. And there was like this big dining room with tables, so everybody can eat there. But sometimes you want to cook something yourself. And so my mom and dad did use the hot plate a few times without getting caught. We were there during Christmas. So it must be 1989 Christmas. Or New Year. I know basically it was that time. And I remember we went outside and broke off a pine tree branch, and we brought it in our room, and we hung it on the wall, and we put candy on it as decorations. That was funny. But and we went. So they had a grocery store, but I think it was more of a bigger store. It wasn't just groceries; it was things too, like Walmart or something like that. Not that big, obviously, but it was a big store for me. I was shocked at how big it was, and it also had all these amazing foods that we've never seen. In Soviet Union, we had one type of stuff, like if it's cheese, we had cheese. I'm sure there was different types of cheeses, but for us peasants, it was just cheese if you could afford it. If you wanted bread, you can buy bread. But here there was like 20 different types of breads, 20 different types of cheeses, and all these other things that we've never seen before. So we were just amazed at the store. And I remember that store had shopping carts that you had to put a coin in to remove from the rest of them, from the rest of the shopping carts. And you would take it to the store, shop, and then you have to bring the cart back and plug it in into the previous cart and to get your money out. I thought that was a genius idea. Another thing about Austria that is memorable to me is I was amazed at how clean everything was. All the streets were clean, the sidewalks, everything was taken care of, all the front yards and people's properties, everything was just perfect. It was beautiful. And I remember thinking to myself, this is just Austria. Just wait till we get to America. That's how I was thinking, is that this is nothing. Wait till we get to America. That's going to be amazing. Imagine my surprise when we landed in New York, or was it Chicago? I don't know. It was one of those two. I don't remember where we landed. But I know it was one of the two. It was either Chicago or New York. Anyway, so we were there in Austria for about 3 to 6 months. I always thought it was 6 months, but then somebody told me it was 3 months, and so I don't know. I know it was a very long time. So while we were living there, there was a room in the hotel that all the old immigrants that moved to Austria a lot earlier, like years and years before that. So they had compassion on all the refugees that were coming through, and they would bring things like toys for kids and all kinds of clothes and stuff. And there was a room dedicated for all this. There was a pile of clothes and toys and things. And some of the things that they brought were bikes. So we had like maybe 5 or 7 bikes for kids. And I remember there was a guy that would come to this hotel, and he would buy stuff from the refugees or immigrants. I should say immigrants, not refugees. Don't know if there's a difference between that. Sure, there's a difference. But anyway, from immigrants. So he would buy. Some people would bring silver utensils with them to sell. Other people would bring gold items and jewelry and stuff like that. So because they're moving from Soviet Union, the only way to transfer or take wealth with them, or whatever wealth they did have, was in these items. They couldn't take money with them. And also, Soviet Union did not allow you to have dollars. So you couldn't take dollars with you. So if you had Russian money, you had to buy something that you can take with you. So they brought all these different things, and this guy would come and buy it from them. He was a hustler. And so one evening, there was a bunch of kids sitting in this dining room playing board games and things. And he came up to us, he came up to me specifically and he said, "Hey, sell me all those bikes." And I'm like, "They're not my bikes. I can't sell them to you." And he's like, "Just sell them to me." And so he was like, he was trying to take advantage of a kid. I don't know what I'm doing, and it's not my bikes. I don't care about them. And so he just needed me to agree to sell them to him. So I didn't want to make the decision by myself. There was another guy in the room. I think he was maybe 18. And so I went up to him and I said, "Hey, this guy wants us to sell those bikes to him." And so he's like, "All right, money." So he basically said, "Yeah, let's sell it." So he gave us, I don't remember what denomination of money it was, but I think it was like 50 cents equivalent for each of us. So for him, 50, no, it must have been more. I don't know. It was ridiculously low amount, but I know that the amount equal to a price of a bottle of wine. So I know that much. So the money that both of us got together, it was the amount that a bottle of wine cost. And I'll tell you why I know that. So he took all the bikes and, took off. He gave us the money. And so later that day, or this was evening, I believe it's probably the next day. No, it was the same day. In the evening, this 18-year-old guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, let me borrow your money. I'll give it back to you. I need to buy something." So I gave him the money. And he bought a bottle of wine with it. He went to the store and bought a bottle of wine. I don't know how he was able to do it. He was barely 18. I don't know. I don't know how old he was. I thought he was 18. But he bought this bottle of wine. He drank some, and he hid the rest of it in one of the bathrooms. There was a tub, and the tub had this access window to the plumbing, and so he hid it in there behind this access door. And I didn't know this until later, probably a couple of weeks down the road, that he wouldn't give me my money back. And then somebody told me that he bought this bottle of wine and he's hiding it over there. And so after a while that he didn't give me my money back, I went over there and I pulled out this bottle and I poured it into the tub. Half of whatever was there, I poured half of it into the tub and filled it back up with water. I don't know what came over me. I don't know. That's funny. Anyway, and so I stuck it back under the tub. Later that day or a later time, this guy comes banging on our door. And I was like, "Oh no." So my dad opens the door and he's like, "Yeah, your son diluted my wine." So he was really mad, and my dad was like, "Wine? What?" So he just sent that guy going, but he was like, "Did you drink half the bottle and then pour water in there to fill it?" So he didn't know. And I was like, "No, I didn't." Anyway, so he didn't believe me. I got smacked around for that. And then I had to tell him the whole story of selling the bikes. I got in trouble for that too. That was quite a story. Anyway, so then, what else happened over there? We went walking into the mountains. That was fun. It was a winterish type of weather, but it wasn't very snowy. I don't know. I don't remember it being very snowy. I know it was very green and cold. Oh, it was the first time ever in my life I saw a JCPenney catalog. It might have not been JCPenney, but it was a thick book, this thick. And it had all these cool things in it that I've never seen before in my life. had like a section this thick of just toys. And I was fascinated with that too. Anyway, so we were done with Austria, and we got on another train and went to Italy. In Italy, a lot of people stayed in Rome. We stayed in a small, tiny city called Olivano Romano. Olivano Romano. It's maybe a couple of 100 miles east of Rome. I don't know, something like that. Maybe 100 miles. I don't really know. Just not too far. If you look at the map, it's like that far from Rome to the east. And so we arrived over there, and we arrived at a really fancy hotel. It was a really nice looking place. It was on top of the mountain. It was looking over the valley, the little city, and then past it into the valley. Really beautiful. We got one of the rooms. We might have gotten 2 rooms. Anyway, when we arrived over there, people that were living in the hotel were already on their way out. So again, we stayed there between 3 to 6 months. I don't remember how long. And through that whole time, people kept moving away and away and away. We'd make friends, and then the friends would move away. And we ended up staying, maybe there was 5 families in the entire hotel. We had rule of the whole hotel, so we would like go through the rooms and pretend it was our house, and it was a blast. Yeah, they were not locked rooms. They were just wide open, so we can go in and play in there or whatever. Let's see what else. Yeah, so there was a bar area and restaurant type of area down at the first floor. It was super fancy, like really rich, dark wood, gold-plated, fancy things on the walls and in the bar area, and like fancy velvet drapes and just furniture, and it was amazing. But we were never allowed to go in there. I'm trying to remember. I know they fed us. I know we had breakfast and lunch and dinner. It's somewhere there, but it wasn't in this restaurant. They didn't want us in there. We would sneak in there and play. All the lights were off, so we'd play and hide under the furniture, and people, the hotel staff would come out and yell at us and get us out of there. There was also magnolia trees growing on the side of the hotel, and we were told that the magnolia flowers are poisonous, so you can't keep them in the rooms. So if you keep them in the rooms and you sleep at night, you might not wake up. I don't know how true it is. It might have been something that they said to keep the Russians from ripping off all the flowers. I don't know. Anyway, what else? Oh yeah, so another thing that was popular over there in Italy is to go and go stand on the intersection of the street and wash windows on cars. So when the cars stop at a stoplight, you come up and you wash their windows, and they give you money. A lot of people made, good money like that. And then so one day they convinced me to go. So I went over there, And basically, the idea was you wait until the cars stop at a stoplight, and then you come up to the car, you throw your dirty rag on the windshield and say "polire," and then the guy yells at you or gives you the money so you can wash the window, or just yells at you. And so that was kind of what we did. I did make some money there. I don't know how long I was doing that for. I know it wasn't very long, but the money I did earn, again, there was an arcade a block away, and we went and spent all the money in the arcade. I have good memories of Italy, of this specific hotel. I actually looked it up and found it on Google. I found it in very bad condition. It looks like somebody bought the property. So after everybody moved out in 1990 and the immigration stopped, there was no more people staying in that hotel. So it was empty for years and years, and somebody purchased it to do a renovation, and they ran out of money, so it again stood there half taken apart, and stood there for years. And I believe that recently, maybe in the last couple of years, somebody bought it again, and it looks like they might have finished it. I don't know. I always thought, man, it would be cool to buy that property and just have a hotel there. I couldn't find much information about it, so I actually, on Upwork, I posted a job for somebody in around Rome to actually drive out there, ask around, take some photos, and report back to me. And so I had a guy, an Italian guy, respond. I don't remember how much I paid him, but he went out there, or maybe he just called over there. I don't remember. I know he didn't do the job all the way how I wanted it to be done. I don't think he took any pictures. But he did find some information for me. And I had to communicate with him using Google Translate because he only spoke Italian. So that was fun. Anyway, so when we were done over there, so while we were there, my parents did go to Rome and saw all the famous places in Rome. I never went to Rome, so I never seen it. It's kind of unfortunate, but true. I wish that someday I could go back there and just drive through the mountains of Italy and stay somewhere in that little city. It'll be fun. Anyway, so then, wow, it's already 33 minutes. Look at that. Vlog number 2, and I'm making it long. Anyway, so we're done with Italy. We got on a plane, first time on a plane ever. Flew to United States. I don't remember, like I said, if we landed in New York or in Chicago. For some reason, my brain thinks equally where it could be, there or there. I can't confirm. But my thoughts were, so we landed there, and we had to wait for our next flight. I don't know how long we were there. I know that we did not stay in a hotel, but we did have to come out of the secure area. We went outside and looked around outside, and there was like homeless people near the airport, and it was not what I expected America to look, to say the least. Anyway, so then we got on a plane and flew to Sacramento, and that was our destination. When we got to Sacramento, we had a bunch of my dad's friends come meet us, and they already got us an apartment and they furnished it for us. So that was really nice. Um, we moved into this apartment in downtown Sacramento on U Street. Um, Man, we had all kinds of fun over there. We, in my childhood, that was fun. Um, the I went to so the first school that I went to was in Sacramento, downtown. It was by the freeway somewhere. I don't remember what freeway it was. Maybe it was 80. Maybe it was I-5. I don't know. But seventh grade is my first grade in the United States. So when we left Soviet Union, I was in fifth grade. I just started fifth grade. Yeah, I just started fifth grade. Or maybe I was finished with fifth grade. I don't know, something like that. And then in America, I went to seventh grade, so I skipped sixth grade. I've never been to the sixth grade. In seventh grade, so right now there's like ESL classes, like English as second language. When I went to school for the first time, they didn't have those programs. And so they just put me in regular classes with zero English. That was exciting. A lot of bullying, a lot of embarrassing situations. I was walking from school one day with my friend, and then next thing I know is I'm on the floor, I'm on the ground by the intersection, and my friend is like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I didn't know what happened. Apparently, some guy came up and punched me from the back into my face, and knocked me out. I didn't know. I didn't even know what happened. So there was a bunch of that kind of stuff. People didn't like Russians. There was a lot of bullying of Russians, especially because we didn't speak English. It was tough. The way I learned English was I literally had to learn 10 new words out of the dictionary every day. By the time I come home so my dad told me I have to learn 10 new words, and when I'm home, then I have to report on it, basically. And it was tough, it was hard, but I think it was good because it did make me learn English faster. I don't know. And then, other than that, I don't remember any other situation where I had to learn English. I feel like it just came naturally after that point. So we lived there in Sacramento, and slowly became Americans. So that is my story of how we came to the United States. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions around any of the things that I was talking about. It was quite an experience. I wrote it down in a Word document. Like, I wrote everything out that I remembered, so it's on paper. Because it is an interesting historical story of our family. Yeah. Thanks so much for listening. It's like 39 minutes already. I hope you enjoyed the story. So I think that's what I'm going to do in these vlogs, is just tell you stories about my life and just things that I've been through, because I've got a lot of interesting experiences through my life that are fun to listen to. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening again. Leave me a comment. Let's let's chat about stuff. Ask me questions, and I'll reply back, and we'll just have a discussion of some sort about some fun stuff. All right, have a good one, guys. Bye.